The Philadelphia Eagles have a need for running back, and in this draft, I feel like there's a lot of young men that can fill that position. I know a lot of guys want Bijan Robinson, but I want you to understand that there's a lot of guys out there that we can draft. Hold on. Why is 500 calling me? Hold on, let me just take this real quick. Yo, 500.
Yo, Joe, what's all this talk about other running backs and doing videos on other running backs? There's only one. Draft 5. Don't do it, all right? Why don't you shut the computer off and let's go out and get a sandwich. And on the sandwich, we'll put a little Bijan. You know what I mean? Don't do it, Joe.
I got it, Philly.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it is Philly the podcast. So today we're gonna go over the top 5 running backs not named Bijan Robinson. And shout out to my brother, shout out to my guy Philly 500, man. I thought that this would be a little bit funny. I know a lot of you guys are getting tired of some people talking about Bijan. I know that he's the leader of draft 5, so I thought it would be funny. There's obviously no beef. There's no, hard feelings. Nothing like that. That's my best friend right there. Love him to death, man, and I just thought that would be funny for everybody. But before we get into these top 5 guys, they're really not a top 5, but just 5 guys I think people should be talking about. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family. But this is a long video, so I'm going to go ahead and shut on up and just enjoy the video, man, and let me know what you're thinking in the comments, and if you would pick any of these guys or if I'm missing any guys. But let's get into it. So the 5'9" running back out of Alabama at 199 pounds, JaMarr Gibbs. I like this kid. I really do. I think that he's probably the second best running back in this draft class. I think that he gives you that straight line speed. He gives you that explosion. He gives you everything you want out of a great running back, and I think he's going to be very, very good at the next level. Now, I want to start with his speed, man. I mean, you look at his speed. He ran a 4.36 40 at the combine. He clocked in at 22.3 miles per hour on a 70-yard run. Now, for reference, okay, last year, Paris Campbell had the fastest run in the 2022 season. It was at 22.11 miles per hour. So, I mean, JaMarr Gibbs has elite speed. He also had a 1.52 10-yard split, which was 7th at the combine. But when you look at those numbers, you look at the 10-yard split, you look at the speed, it does equate to leg strength as well. It's not just a guy that has speed. He's a guy that can continue to keep his legs moving at the line of scrimmage. If he stops, so he's not going to just fall backwards. He's a guy that's going to continuously fall forward. He's an asset in short yardage situations, and his numbers don't show you this. His tape shows you this, but these numbers just reinforce that. I mean, he has the speed, like I said, he has the explosion, and he has that straight line speed. So everything is there as far as his speed goes. And then we move on to his age. Look, JaMarr is the 9th youngest draft prospect this year. He turned 21 on March 20th, so happy birthday to him. Obviously, I mean, look, you have a lot of time before you're even looking at his prime. You're controlling that contract for the first 4 to 5 years, depending on where you're getting him, and you're getting a stud right out the gate, in my opinion. We'll get into what he needs to work on, but I mean, you're getting a guy that is still very raw at 20 years old. Will learn a lot about not only himself and his body and how to get the most out of his body, but he's also going to learn a lot about the position. So I think that age is something to definitely keep in mind and keep factored in. Now, the next part is probably the part that I love the most about JaMarr Gibbs. If I'm being 100% honest, I think that this kid is an elite receiver at the running back position. I think that you can possibly say he's the best receiving running back in this draft. And that's not saying Bijan Robinson is not great. That's not saying that some of these other guys can't do very well at the position. I just think that what we've seen JaMarr Gibbs do so far, he was honestly the best wide receiver in his draft class last year with Alabama, and now you see what they're going to be able to do with their quarterback probably going either 1 or 2. Look, he has an extensive route tree. He had 20 plus catches in all of his seasons. He left Georgia Tech. When he transferred Georgia Tech, he had a 90 plus receiving grade from PFF. I want to say it was like 94 point something. So he is probably the best receiving back in this draft class. And as I said, I'm still trying to think of somebody that can maybe compete with him, but I just really can't think of anybody. I think that he is that good, and I think that he would be very, very interesting to see with the Philadelphia Eagles. We are all in love with what Bijan Robinson is, do not get me wrong, but if this is the name that we hear, I think Eagles fans should be just as ecstatic. I think that this kid can really do some things in this league for the next 5, 6, 7 years, depending on what happens there. Now, he does have to work on his pass protection. I mean, at 199, you want to see him get a little bit bigger, but he definitely does have to work on his pass protection. I don't think anybody outside of Bijan can really say that they're, an elite or very good pass protector in this draft class. So I'm loving JaMarr Gibbs. You guys let me know what you're thinking. And this is a guy that I would not mind seeing the Philadelphia Eagles go ahead and take on. Zach Charbonnet. I hope I'm saying that right. People have told me many ways of saying his last name, so we're going to stick with one. I'm going to go with Charbonnet, the UCLA running back, 6'1", 214 pounds. I like this kid. I've said this numerous times, and I feel like I've been open and honest that was going to be the case. But I want to just jump right into it. I want to talk about his frame and his future. We're going to start with the 2 Fs, right? We should have put foundation. It would have been 3 Fs. I could go on for the anyways. Look, he's a strong, fast running back. Like I said, 6'1", 214 pounds. He can definitely run through you, and he can run around you a little bit. His 40 wasn't crazy at the combine. I think it was like 4.53, something around there. It's a bit above average, but it's not. I don't think it's indicative of what he actually plays at, because, and I've said this before, when you look at the combine numbers, I don't want people looking at the combine numbers and saying that's who he is. We use the combine numbers to kind of solidify things that we, wanted to know from the tape, or that maybe looked like, hey, maybe he has a little bit of craziness speed. But I feel like he runs faster in game. I feel like he plays faster. I know that was a long soliloquy, but either way, I feel like he looks faster on tape than he actually did at the combine. He's a guy that can move around. He's more fast than quick. Like once he gets ahead of you, it's hard to catch up with him, but he's not going to be shifty and, moving around like a LaShawn McCoy or anything like that. That's not really his game. He's a north to south guy, which brings me into my next point. He's a one-trick truck. One-trick truck. You like that? I'm proud of myself on these little corny things I'm saying. But either way, he's going north and south. That's what he wants to do. He's a north-south runner. He's not trying to, go to the left. He's not trying to, make you look stupid he's not trying to break your ankles. He's trying to just go through your chest. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to find the quickest hole and make it to the other side. That's all he wants to do. I know a lot of times with Eagles fans, I'm trying to think of a way of explaining it to like that. We've seen it before. And you look at Miles Sanders, right? Miles Sanders early on in his career, we saw a lot of times he would kind of hesitate behind the line of scrimmage, try to do a little bit too much behind the line of scrimmage, ends up losing yards on plays that could have been 1, 2, 3 yards. You're not going to have to worry about that with a Zach Charbonnet. He's going to go through you, like I said, and if there's nothing there, he's going to dive forward. There's really no other way of putting it. He's not going to fall backwards. That's one thing that you can definitely count on Zach Charbonnet. Another thing I want to talk about is his versatility, man. He's lined up at receiver this last year, his senior year, getting the most receiving yards he has in his college career thus far at 321. So he has enough skill, enough of the mindset to be able to go out there and line up as a slot guy, somebody that you can trust in the receiving game. I do feel like there was a little bit of issue with his drops. I have to say that because I know there's going to be somebody in the comments bringing it up. He definitely did struggle with drops, and I know we all are still scorned by Miles Sanders' drops, and I know people still hit my DM talking about Quez Watkins' 2 or 3 drops this year. Anyways, we're not going to get into that, right? But he did struggle with that, but he has improved year by year. I mean, from the production standpoint to the, just on the field standpoint, you've seen an improvement year by year from Zach Charbonnet, especially in that versatility realm. So he's a guy I feel comfortable adding into our passing game, and that's always something you definitely want to see. Now, the last one, I use this one for another guy. I'm going to use it for him, but production matters. All right, so we're going to look at his production a little bit. And the last 2 years, he's had over 1,100 yards. He's had 27 touchdowns on the ground combined over the last 2 years. He's been able to produce, right? I mean, there's no other way of saying it. He has gone out there and he has produced. he's not overwhelming in any one area. He's not the best, run blocker. He's not the greatest at blocking. I would be real with that too. But at the end of the day, he's not the greatest at one thing, but I feel like the collective makes him a very solid player, and it leads to very solid production. So that's Zach Charbonnet. You guys let me know what you're thinking of the kid from UCLA. A guy I like, and I ended a lot of these with this, and I'm going to end this one with this as well. If he's the name that's end up called at that draft, I'm not going to be mad at it. This is a good player. So you guys let me know what you're thinking. Kendra Miller. Big dog Kendra. I am a big fan of Kendra Miller out of TCU. 5'11", 215 pounds. He checks a lot of boxes. I'm a real big fan of this kid. I mean, we'll get right into it, and we'll get into his age. He turns 21 in June. This is a kid that you can work on his hands as a receiver. You can work on his pass protection while still utilizing that hard-nosed running style. If you look at how he's been used and the usage that they had in TCU, he has a lot of tread on his tire left. I mean, in his first 2 seasons, he had 137 combined carries, and then in his final season, they gave him 224 carries. The man has so much still to give. I think that the ceiling for this young man is abundantly high. One of my favorites, to be 100% honest, in this draft class, just because of the mixture of what he is now and the mixture of what he can become in this league. I truly believe that he has not hit his ceiling yet, and I think that age is very telling in that fact. Now, this is one that I've said about most of these guys at this point, but production matters. Production matters. I'm going to keep saying that production matters. Kendra is not the fastest guy in the draft, not by a long shot, right? But he's had multiple 75-yard runs. He's had a long of 89 in his career. I talked about the carry the carries differential from the first 2 seasons, 137 in the first 2 seasons. That was while having a 7.3 average per run, right? And then you go to the final season, 224 carries. You may think, hey, the yards per carry is definitely going to tail off. It's definitely going to fall off a little bit. It does slightly, but still an elite mark at 6.2 per carry. And this is not against bad teams. This is against very good teams. One of those teams is Texas, which I believe was 18 at the time. They were ranked 18th at the time. He had he went crazy, all right? He had 138 yards in there, an average 6.6 yards per carry, and had a touchdown. Now, to go even deeper, against top 25 teams this past year, he had 128 carries for 758 yards and 9 touchdowns. So it did not matter what the competition was. Kendra was there to play, and I loved seeing what I saw out of him. I really did. I felt like whenever the moment got big, that's when you saw Kendra appear, and I think that in the next level, if you ask him to do more, I think he'll be ready to do it. The maturation from this guy has been incredible to watch over the past couple of years. Now, next I want to talk about, he's a gadget receiver in my opinion. Now, is he a guy that you can look at his production as far as receiving goes? He wasn't asked to be a big part of their receiving game, but I feel like he has the soft enough hands. He's good enough in space that he can make some guys miss. So if you want to put him on the outside, if you want him to catch some screens, catch some passes in the flats, he's a guy that I think that would work beautifully with, and I think that he would prosper and maybe even thrive in that type of situation where you're giving him some space, you're giving him the ball in his hands and just letting him do what he does best, and that's make people miss. So I think that he's not necessarily a slot receiver, like I said, maybe with a JaMarr Gibbs or, a very refined receiver like a Bijan Robinson, but he's a guy that can definitely add something to your passing game. So I like that about Kendra Miller. And the last thing I want to talk about is framework and confidence, okay? He has the framework. He has put out the tape. He has put out the production. You have seen the numbers, right? We've talked about what he's been able to do against top competition, what he's been able to do on a consistent basis as far as yards per carry, but he has the confidence to back it up. he has the confidence that he wants to be the best player in this draft class. He wants to be the best player in year one as the running back, as a rookie. I truly believe he feeds off of the contact. He feeds off of people hitting him, off the game getting tougher, off of, stuff like that. I think that he's a gamer, and I would love to see the Eagles go ahead and grab a Kendra Miller. I think that he would just be perfect for the Eagles. All right, Tank Bixby, man. This is a guy that I like. I like him a lot, man. 5'11", 210 pounds. He's honestly a tank, man. A lot of times when you see him run, he's initiating contact. You could tell that he has very good balance, especially for his size, man. He has great vision. But the thing that pops out to me off rip is going to be that he has light feet but heavy shoulders. What do I mean by that? He can fit through tight spaces. He can wiggle and move his feet in ways that he can cut on a dime and everything, but he can also create his own space. He sees the field very well, so if he sees that there's not much there, he's going to try and bull through you and fall forward. So I love what I see from him as a pure runner. This guy just, I mean, you see the stiff arm, you see just him being able to make people miss tackles. It's just incredible. It really is incredible watching him play. He's one of those guys that I feel like maybe 10 years ago we would all be salivating over, because he has that speed, he has that power. Not top end speed, don't get me wrong, but he is fast enough that he can definitely get gone if need be. Now, the next thing is production matters, man. I know a lot of times, we look especially at this draft, and there's a lot of guys that are going to go off of what they could be and not necessarily what they are. But my man Tank has literally, he has exceeded expectations in a lot of ways, and exceeded the expectations of his production, so of his touches, I should say. So, and what do I mean by that? Every 21.6 touch that Tank Bixby has taken has been a touchdown. He had 25 touchdowns throughout his career, and it's just crazy. He had less than 600 carries. All of them came on the ground, and a lot of them didn't necessarily come from within the 4-yard or within the goal line. So he's a very versatile runner. He averaged 5.4 yards per rush through his college, and he had at least 20 receptions and over 180 receiving yards in the past 2 seasons. So he can do a little bit of both, and I really do like Tank. I mean, it's really not just the name, but I really do like what this guy can do, and this is probably the biggest reason why, and that's Bully Ball 101, man. We talk about guys for years. For years, I've been hearing Eagles fans saying, we need a big guy. We need a guy that can just, pound it in the middle and just, make people mad that they had to tackle him. And Tank is that guy. Tank, to me, is realistically that guy. I mean, there's other guys, and we'll talk about him on this list even, but there's other guys that definitely you can say the same thing about, but Tank just, I don't know. There's something about him that is just so intriguing, especially when you look at what the Eagles have. We have everything but kind of a smash mouth running back. So, all right, his longest run in his college career was only 51 yards. Okay, so he gets his yards off churning, off just hard nose running, and he's gonna wear you down. And this was something that really jumped out to me. If you look at last season and you look at his first half rush per yards per rush, it jumps from 4.6 in the first half to 6.5 in the second half. He's going to be a guy that he is going to continuously be pounding the ball, pounding the rock. He's going to keep coming at you, and throughout the game, he's going to wear you down. And that's something that the Eagles definitely could use, especially with the type of system that we run. We like to go in the second half and go out there and just run the ball crazy and try and wear out the game and run the clock out. I think that this guy fits that perfectly. And the last thing I want to talk about is gonna be just his work ethic. I mean, I was able to speak to him at the NFL Combine, and I asked him, who he wanted to be compared to, what a type of a running back he wanted to be at the next level, and he just said he wanted to be him. He wanted to be the greatest running back when it's all said and done, and that's what you want to hear from a running back. That's what you want to hear from a guy that is gonna obviously have to go in there and put in the work. I think that Tank is a guy that we can really get behind as fans and an organization. So I'm really hoping, and I'm really rooting for him. I would love to see him in Eagles green. Zach Evans, the Ole Miss running back, 5'11", 202 pounds. I'm really intrigued by this guy. A guy that's been really underused. He did get injured last year, 2022. He was able to kind of really break out onto the scene as far as production. But there's a lot of things to like about this young man, and we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna get right into his. This is gonna be a very blanketed statement, but underrated. He's underrated. I feel like he can do everything well. He adjusts well to the ball as a receiver. He makes smart cuts. He shows good vision. He has great straight line speed. I mean, he can do everything. He can take snaps out of almost any position, any formation. So there's really nothing you can't do with a Zach Evans. Obviously, there's going to be question marks about, the lack of being able to be that number one guy, right? He did get injured. He did get injured prior to the combine. There's going to be questions like that, and that's probably why he will slip in the draft, especially in such a heavy running back situation and a heavy running back draft. But I like this kid. I really do feel like he's not talked about enough. And I did see a couple of you guys putting it in the comments. So, if I get the time to edit all in, I'm trying to get this out, early morning. But if I get the time to edit it in, I'm going to try and put all your comments up there. But I did see a lot of people bringing up Zach Evans. And it not to sound, not to sound no type of way, but it made me proud. It made me proud to know that my, subscribers, my followers, my people that, rock with me know what they talk about. Because Zach Evans, I think he's a sleeper. In my opinion, I really do think he's a sleeper. Now, again, this is kind of becoming a theme, right? But we're going to kind of switch up the theme a little bit. And we're going to ask the question, production is supposed to matter, right? It's supposed to matter because when you look at this kid, I just feel like he was criminally underused. Obviously, he did get hurt. He got shut down in his 2021 season. So that would probably change a lot of this, right? He only played 6 games, but he ran for 648 yards, 5 touchdowns, was just on a tear. He was on an absolute tear. I think he had 90 yards, in one of those games. Balled out. And if you look at his career, right, he had 11 games that he had over 80 yards. And he only had 10 games with 15 or more carries. So he was consistently making the most out of what he got. I really do like this guy. I don't know. I can't overstate this, right? He also, he attributed to the passing game in his career, not as much as obviously you would want to see, but even the numbers. You look at the numbers and it makes you feel good about what he can do at the next level. 30 career receptions for 325 yards. That's 10.8 yards per catch. So there's faith that he can do something there even, right? And then you look at the touchdowns, 18 career touchdowns. And if you look at the total amount of carries that he had, there was 18 career touchdowns on the ground, and he only carried it 290 total times. So if you look at that as far as an average, that's every 16.1 carry he would be scoring. That's, I want to see what that becomes at the next level. And you factor in when he's going to become available in drafts, when he's probably going to be a guy that people bring up. It makes it even more malleable, right? It makes it even more of something that you would love to see. I think this is a Howie pick through and through. And another thing I want to talk about, we talked about this with other guys, he's a gadget type of receiver. I think that he showed effectiveness in screens, in sweeps, and other plays like that. He can track the ball down the field as a receiver. He hasn't necessarily shown the ability to gain separation on a consistent basis. He doesn't have that kind of speed where he can stop and go, right? There's a different type of speed with that, but he has shown to be a very very usable part of the passing game. We'll say that. And lastly, I want to say quickly, I did get to speak to him at the combine. He was a very humble young man, a very nice young man, and he seemed like he was hungry and excited for the next step. There was some people that you could just tell was just going through the motions. He didn't seem like one of those kids. He seemed like he was excited. So Zach Evans, come on down. We would love to have you in Philly. So there it is. Those are 5 running backs that I feel that you should have on your draft boards. You should be watching as this draft happens. So let me know what you're thinking. Who are some guys you would have added to this list? Who are some guys that you think maybe don't deserve to be on my list? Just give me any of your opinions, your thoughts, anything down in the comments. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe if you enjoyed what you watched. But other than that, y'all know what it is, man. It's Fly Eagles Fly. And we are out here. Peace!
Thanks for tuning